Is your gut actually sending out distress signals you can afford to miss? You probably are missing it already. So welcome to the channel. I am Dr. Oteng. Today we are discussing the 5 gut signs your diabetes is getting worse. Let's get right into it. The first sign that we want to talk about is bloating, abdominal pain, and excessive gas. So if you are constantly being bloated, you have constant pain, abdominal pain, and you have gas issues all the time, you have gas issues. If you are diabetic, that may be a sign that your diabetes is getting worse. And I'm going to spend some time to explain why, because it's not that obvious, right? We can always attribute those signs to other things, what we call differential diagnosis. But in this sense, I want to explain how these signs may actually inform you that your blood sugars are way too high, or if you are already diabetic, that your diabetes is not well controlled. And this sign can be something that we actually see from the small intestine. This is a sign that we call small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. This is something that comes from that. So when you see bloating, abdominal pain, and gas all the time, it is a result of small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. Or simply put, it is a sign that you have too much bacteria growing up in your intestines. That's in layman's terms. And why is that? Another thing, actually, it's not just that. Another thing is also that the sign could also be representing a worsening case of what we call gastroparesis, or simply put, delayed stomach or bowel emptying from years of diabetes. But I'm not going to just leave those there. I'm going to explain what these terms are. When you have your diet is constantly made of or from refined sources, you are eating processed foods all the time, you barely have any fiber in your diet, what eventually happens is that because your foods are stripped of the beneficial fiber, you don't empty your bowels as quickly as possible. And those of you who are watching who actually have seen this, you can bear me witness that if you have your diet constantly from processed sources, you are not going to have, easy move of stuff down from the top to the bottom, if I should put it that way. In other words, you get constipated. You don't empty your bowels as quickly as needed or as required because you don't have fiber. Fiber helps make things go down right from the beginning, from your mouth all the way to where you pass it out. If you don't have fiber because of your constant, diet in processed foods, you are going to strip yourself from the ability to go, regularly. And if you don't go regularly, what then happens is that you're going to keep a lot of growth of bacteria in your gut, especially in the colon. But all the way from the small intestine, you're going to have a huge population growth of bad bacteria because you're not emptying your gut quickly enough. And that then will lead to bloating and the gas, because when the bacterial populations are over what is expected to be there, when the fungi population is over what is expected to be there, you are going to ferment stuff, and you're going to produce a lot of gas. And this gas we're talking about is what is going to cause the abdominal pain that we are talking about. And so I explained this point from the perspective of somebody who is not eating high fiber diets. But from the perspective of a person, or from the point of a person who is already diabetic for years and whose blood sugars are not controlled, another issue happens. And as we all know, most diabetics know that if you are diabetic, you get what we call neuropathy. We get tingling and numbness of your extremities, especially your feet and your hands, because of poorly controlled blood sugars. Now, I'll tell you what, this doesn't only happen here, it also happens in the gut. That's what we call gastroparesis. So your autonomic nervous system, you are not able to control the peristalsis. You are not able to control the movements, the smooth muscle movements in your gut. That will help get things down from when you eat all the way to when you pass it out, because of high blood sugar levels. So much as you see it in your fingers and your toes and stuff, the same thing happens in the autonomic nervous system, or simply in your gut lining. So it slows down movement of stuff when you eat all the way through your bowels. And when that happens, obviously you're going to grow a lot of huge populations of bacteria and fungi, which then produces too much gas, and you are going to have the abdominal pain, gas, and all those other things that I mentioned earlier. Let's go to sign number 2. You may have nausea, and you may have vomiting symptoms and a feeling of, fullness, or, when you eat something very small, you get too full too quick, even though it may be something small. So keep that in mind. You eat, you are nauseous, sometimes you throw up, and then also a little bite of food making you feel like you are so full. That is the second sign that your gut diabetes may be getting worse. Sign from your gut in this respect. These are classic symptoms of advancing gastroparesis. That's why I spend a lot of time to explain what it means. But just to make it clear, again, just as diabetes or high blood sugars lead to numbness and tingling of the feet, what we call neuropathy, the same process happens in the smooth muscles of your gut. And if you have long-standing uncontrolled blood sugar levels, then obviously you're going to slow down the movement of things down, because you are damaging the vagus nerve, which controls these smooth muscles, contractions and all that in your stomach and in the intestines. But in this regard, because we are talking about vomiting and nausea, it is more of the stomach. Stomach muscle contractions become extremely reduced. And if there are no contractions in the stomach because of the vagus nerve damage, again because of high blood sugar levels, then the stomach doesn't contract. And if it doesn't contract, when food enters, it sits there like that. Nothing pushes it. Contraction basically makes it quiver, I should say, if I could use that term. Contraction is what makes it move. The muscle will move, and as it moves, it pushes stuff down. So if because of the damage of the vagus nerve system, or because of the fact that you are getting gut neuropathy, if I should say, then things are not going to go down because there's less or decreased contraction. And so when you eat, it sits there and you get nauseous. When you eat, it sits there and you become you get so full, even though it's just a little bit, because the stuff is not going down due to the lack of contractions in your stomach. And so any small thing makes you full, you get nauseous, you throw up, and that is a huge sign that your vagus nerve is damaged. And if it's damaged, extreme case of gastroparesis, where your food is not getting down. So that is a second sign of diabetes worsening as a result coming up or being shown through your gut. So worsening diabetes doesn't only show in the fact that you go to the bathroom and you pee all the time. Everybody knows. Yes, that's there. But you may not do that. Or if you have done that for over a long period, what happens is that becomes not the only thing, but the damage in your gut, in your intestines, starting from your esophagus all the way through your stomach, all the way through your small intestine and to into the colon, they all become static. They all don't move anymore. And if they don't, again, gas, pain. Now, second point, nausea, vomiting, and then satiety, unrealistic satiety. You eat one thing, small thing, and you are full. Why? Because your stomach is not moving things down. So let's take care of those things. So two signs. Now let's go to the third sign. Remember, we're doing 5 signs. The third sign, or sign number 3, that shows that your diabetes is worsening, which is shown from your gut. No other place, not the pee, but the gut, is that it's a sign that is chronic or more severe constipation, and also actually unpredictable bouts of diarrhea. So chronic constipation, severe constipation, and then, or it's either or. You can have both at several, different times, or unpredictable bouts of diarrhea, what we call diabetic diarrhea. And it's, again, from high sugar levels, from high blood sugar levels, which damages the nerves in the colon, and that lead to severe constipation. Remember, we started from the top. If your stomach is not contracting, you get the nausea, the throw up, and the feeling of fullness, being full all the time. And then we talked about the intestine, what also happens with the pain, abdominal pain, and the gas, the small intestine. Now we're in the colon. In the colon, because again of the high blood sugar levels that have persisted over time, this same damage that caused the intestines not to move, that caused the stomach not to move, the same damage happens in the colon. And so in the colon, there's just stuck. Food just gets there and then it's stuck because the smooth muscles are not moving. There are no contractions and relaxations. The intestines are supposed to move. The colon is supposed to move, and as it moves, the smooth muscles, as it moves, it pushes things down. Now, with the case of a high blood sugar that is not controlled, there's no movement, and so if food ends up being there, it gets stuck. And that's when we call it severe constipation. You get constipated from days. Some people come to me and they are like, I haven't been able to go for weeks. I haven't been able to go for 3 days. This past 3 days, a patient said they have not gone for 3 days. And you could tell in their face that they were worried because it's not normal. At least for some people. I know some people, I got to be careful. Some people, they go every 3 days and their lifestyle, that's how it is. That's fine for them. But if you are the person that goes twice a day and all of a sudden 3 days you haven't gone, it becomes bothersome. And if you are diabetic, that is a case that you have to be serious about. Because why? It's a sign that your colon, your gut is not moving. A sign that gastroparesis, or the nerve damage to the smooth muscles there, are high. And for that reason, you are not moving things now because you are not contracting. And so severe case of constipation, as well as bout of diarrhea, even what we call diabetic diarrhea. And that happens in some people because while uncontrolled, or while non-contracting smooth muscles, or while gastroparesis is making things stuck in the colon and things not moving. On the other hand, uncontrolled contractions can also, and also even more absorptions can also cause diabetic diarrhea. So at some point too, some people, their contractions may be uncontrolled, in which case that will also lead to what we call diarrhea, serious bout of diarrhea, episodic bouts of diarrhea, what we call diabetic diarrhea, which can be watery, and sometimes become so urgent. Sometimes even at night when you don't want to wake up and do anything like that, it will wake you up because of the bouts of watery. We're talking about watery diarrhea because nothing got absorbed, nothing got digested. You just have to go. And an altered gut microbiome also can cause this. Again, apart from the fact that the bulk of it is from the constipation from gastroparesis, or from the fact that you are not contracting, your smooth muscles are not contracting your intestines. The other way is that you can also have an imbalance in your gut microbiome. If you have dysbiosis, if you have a lot of population of bad bacteria in your gut, they can also lead to some of these things, which eventually also lead to chronic blood sugar issues and all those bad things that we discussed last time. So it's a lose-lose situation. So let's check that out. And then let's talk about the fourth sign of worsening blood sugar levels, which shows up especially in your gut. And that fourth sign is more frequent or intense heartburn and acid reflux. This is similar to the first one, but this is more frequent. It's not just gas, we say gas, but this one is more frequent and also what we call acid reflux. So, I mean, there's difference between gas coming up because of undigested foods, extremely fermented food stuck in there because you don't have the ability to push things down. This time around, this gas, or what we're talking about here, is acid reflux. It's not really gas. So what happens is that you have acid coming up, what we call GERD, basically, and troubling you, making you have the pain that you don't want to have. So definitely want to make sure that that doesn't happen. Ensure that my system is logged in again. Yeah, so we don't want to lose that at all. You don't want to lose sight of that. If you have diabetes and you see that there is a strange case of acid reflux, you may have had acid reflux before, but for some reason it becomes very rampant. You don't know what is happening. Then there may be something going on as far as your what do you call it? Your diabetes control is concerned. So we got to make sure that we are checking that to make sure that we are not losing sight of that. So high blood sugar and its associated neuropathy can weaken the lower esophageal sphincter, the LES. So the valve that keeps your stomach acid from flowing back into the esophagus can actually, the valve can be weakened, all because of high blood sugar levels. So if there's always, if you eat your stomach, between your stomach and your esophagus, there's a valve, stuff is not supposed to come back. And what is coming back up through the valve is what we know as the acid that causes the acid reflux, right? And in people with blood sugars not controlled, that valve can be damaged. Simple as that. And if the valve is damaged, then there's no gate to keep the acid down, the stomach acid down, because the gate is damaged as a result of high blood sugar. And so then what happens becomes acid coming up. So a diabetic who especially becomes very frequently harassed with GERD or acid reflux issues should talk about their sugar control. They may have lost that, and that is leading to the damage of that sphincter, which is supposed to prevent acid from coming up. I mean, there must be other things that's going on, but in simplicity, that is what we would blame for in this particular regard. Moreover, we have talked about gastroparesis, the fact that your smooth muscles are not responding to, you know, the vagus stimulation because of the damage. You know, smooth muscles can contract or relax to make things go down. And so on top of that, you know, the sugar, high sugar is making sure that your smooth muscles are not contracting for things to go down. And then on top of that, it's also damaging the valve that is supposed to keep the acid down. And so two things, what we call double whammy, making you have these high frequency in acid reflux. So that is what it is. That's what it is. And it can actually lead to worsening acid reflux. So if you have diabetes, you have, you know, GERD, and it starts becoming worse, then that is an indicator that your blood sugar levels may not be well controlled, because it's affecting your ability to get things down and to keep your sphincter intact. That is exactly what we want to talk about. So now let's talk about the fifth point. We're talking about 5 things, right? 5 things that actually tell that your sugar is not controlled from the gut perspective. This is strictly from the gut. So because most people know about all those other things, you know, like as we said earlier, peeing, waking up to pee, everybody knows. But what are those other things that happen in the gut that nobody knows? That's those 5 things are what we are talking about. And so the 5th one here is that blood sugar spikes even after healthy meals. Oh, sad to say that, but for a lot of people, Their blood sugars, even after watching our shows, some people may have changed, their diet only to see that it's not working out as good. For example, if you're eating whole grains, the oatmeal, steel cut oatmeals, you're eating these veggies, these salads, you shouldn't still have sugar spikes. You shouldn't. The only reason why your sugar spikes are still going up is something that we talked about yesterday. We did talk about it yesterday. Last week, I should say, the leaky gut. The leaky gut is the reason. And again, it's from your gut. It's from the gut. So if you are eating high or rich, high sugar, not high sugar, I don't know how to put it. If you're eating foods that are supposed to be healthy for diabetics, such as fiber, high fiber rich foods, you're not even eating a lot of sugars. You are doing the veggies, you're doing the greens, you're doing the whole grains, you're doing stuff that are not processed, then it, presupposes your sugar should be good. But if it is not, then this is a sign that your sugars are worsened. Your diabetes is worsened as a result of this sign because of leaky gut. Leaky gut. That's as simple as that. And I'm going to explain a little bit, because if you didn't watch last week's show, you probably don't know what leaky gut is. But let's talk about it. So leaky gut actually allows the undigested food particles to enter the bloodstream, because in leaky gut, as we explained, there are holes. Instead of your cells in your intestine being locked up deep, no holes, in the leaky gut situation, there are holes. And because of the holes, some undigested food particles do enter your bloodstream, as well as too much sugar anyway, because you are not even controlling how much sugar you should have in your blood, because the holes are there to get everything that is already digested in your blood. So that is one. But the key is not just the sugar entering. The particles and the toxins from bacteria, the LPS, bacteria cell wall that we talked about, that comes in you. They lead to insulin resistance, inflammation that then worsens insulin resistance. So yes, your body is supposed to be on point as far as glucose control is concerned, because you are eating right. But the sad thing is that because of leaky gut, there are still inflammation going on, which is causing your body to have insulin resistance. And so it will take time. The good news is that you should not give up. You have to keep doing the right things until your gut is healed. But until that time reaches, you have to know that is the reason why you are finding a difficult time controlling your sugars, because there's another thing going on in your belly. I shouldn't say belly, but in your intestines, which is actually leading to inflammation, low-grade chronic inflammation, which then causes your body not to pick up glucose from your blood, and so your glucose all become lodged in your blood, and you have high blood sugar, even though you are eating good. So until that leaky gut is fixed, eating the right foods may not still show in your readings, in your blood sugar readings. That's exactly what I'm trying to. I hope it's clear. So we got to keep doing the right things, though. You don't give up. You got to still keep doing the right things in order to ensure that you heal your leaky gut and then avoid further worsening of your situation. So that's the fifth point. Leaky gut showing up, making you feel like whatever you eat, your sugars is up. And there's a reason. There's a reason. But you got to keep doing the right things, control with medications, control with other things, and ensure that you keep, you get a hand over the blood sugars. But if you are thinking that nothing is working, that might be the reason. It might be from long-standing, openings in your gut, by gut. I hope you have used this enough, and in your intestines, in your small intestines, that there are no holes there. If there are no holes, then you are fine. But if there are holes, it takes time to heal. After you start eating fiber-rich foods, that is when that begins to stop. That's when that begins to stop. So how do you fix these things? I've already started it. How do you fix these 5 problems that show up as worsening diabetes or worsening blood sugars in you? The first thing again is to cut out all sugars, all sugars, all starches, and then make sure that you are eating high, fiber-rich diet, and then doing your exercises so that the sugars that are already in you can find a place to go, because you are activating your muscles to burn them up. All these things are going to help overall to ensure that you get a hand over your blood sugar levels. So do not give up. Definitely do not give up. But those are the 5 signs that show that your diabetes may be worsening. So if any of these 5 gut signs sounds familiar, please don't ignore them. Talk to your healthcare provider and continue to watch our channel, as we are going to continue to show you the right things to do. And the sad thing is, these gut signs we may be focusing on them for diabetics, but they may also appear in several other diseases. And so you don't want to miss them just because we say they were just for diabetes. And if this was helpful, if this information I've shared here with you is helpful, don't hesitate to subscribe and click the like on this video and share it with somebody, because it could make a real difference for someone. Even if you don't have any such a problem, it may be the life and death, may mean the life and death for somebody, as we say literally, but we know that it may make a lot of difference. So that is what we are saying. And before we leave, I also want to say that you can watch this other video that is on the